"Please, don't hurt me, I can't walk." The trembling voice echoed in the dimly lit parking garage, cutting through the silence like shattered glass. Rain dripped from the ceiling, pooling around her wheelchair as she stared up at the tall man before her. His fists clenched, his jaw tight, and yet his eyes weren't angry. They were broken. "I'm not here to hurt you," he whispered, his voice shaking more than hers. And that night, in a moment born of fear and desperation, two shattered lives would collide, and neither would ever be the same again. She was Evelyn Carter, the youngest female CEO in the city, known for her iron will and ruthless decisions. People called her the Ice Queen of Silverline Industries, a woman who built her empire with nothing but grit and sleepless nights. But behind the glass walls of her office and her signature crimson lipstick, Evelyn hid something she never let the world see, a car crash that had taken her ability to walk and the only man who had ever loved her. Her legs were paralyzed, but the pain that truly crippled her lived much deeper, buried under years of pretending she didn't care. Every day was survival. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She didn't need anyone. Until the night she was attacked. It had been a long evening at work, the kind where loneliness whispered louder than success. Her driver had called in sick, so she decided to leave alone, wheeling herself through the dark basement garage toward her car. That's when she heard footsteps. Heavy, uneven, too close. Her heart raced. She pressed the button on her wheelchair motor, but the battery blinked red, dead. And when the shadow stepped out from behind the concrete pillar, she froze. "Please don't hurt me. I can't walk." The man stopped, startled, as if her voice pulled him back from somewhere far away. He looked rough, unshaven, his clothes soaked through. His face was tired, not dangerous. He dropped the wrench he'd been holding, and his voice broke when he said, "I wasn't going to hurt you. I swear." His name was Daniel Hayes. A single dad. A man who had once been a skilled engineer until life, cruel and merciless, took everything. His wife had passed away in childbirth. His little girl, Lucy, was all he had left. But with no job, no home, and too many bills, Daniel had fallen into the kind of hopelessness that eats a man alive. That night, he hadn't come to rob her. He'd come looking for something in the trash bins of the corporate garage. Scraps of metal, old parts, anything he could sell for a few dollars. And when Evelyn screamed, fear and guilt collided in his chest. But fate has strange timing. The rain outside turned into a storm, and when her wheelchair motor gave up completely, Daniel couldn't just leave her there. He hesitated, then stepped forward. "Let me help you," he said. Evelyn didn't answer. Her eyes were wary, calculating. "You can't even help yourself?" she snapped. The words were sharp, but her voice trembled, betraying her fear. Daniel just nodded. "You're right. But I'm still not leaving you here." And somehow through the storm and the silence, he carried her, his jacket soaked, her pride heavy between them, to her car. That was how it began. The next day, Evelyn couldn't stop thinking about him. The man who should have terrified her had instead looked at her with something she hadn't seen in years. Compassion without pity. When she discovered he'd left behind a small, broken watch in her car, curiosity pulled her to find him again. And when she did, what she saw broke her heart. A tiny, run-down apartment, a 6-year-old girl asleep on a couch, and Daniel fixing a leaking pipe with trembling hands. "You didn't have to come," he said, embarrassed. Evelyn stared at him, her usual composure fading. "You helped me. I don't forget things like that." Days turned into weeks. She offered him a job as a mechanic at her company's factory, not as charity, but as repayment. Daniel refused at first, but eventually, for Lucy's sake, he agreed. Slowly, Evelyn began to see him every day. His quiet strength, his kindness, the way he smiled only when his daughter was near. Then came the board meeting. Evelyn's rivals had been waiting for a chance to bring her down. They called her liability, whispering that her wheelchair made her unfit to lead. And on the day she was supposed to announce a major partnership, her condition worsened. Pain shot through her spine, her hands shook, and she couldn't lift herself from the chair. Daniel was there. In the chaos, when everyone turned their backs, he lifted her, carefully, gently, helping her onto the stage without a word. The audience went silent. Evelyn's voice cracked, but she spoke anyway. "Leadership isn't about standing tall," she said. "It's about never letting life make you small." The deal was signed that day, and when it was over, she turned to Daniel and whispered, "You changed everything." But life wasn't done testing them. One night, Lucy fell ill. Hospital bills piled up, and Daniel tried to refuse Evelyn's help again. Pride was all he had left. But Evelyn, once so cold, so unreachable, grabbed his hand and said, "Don't push me away. You saved me when no one else would. Let me save you." In that hospital corridor, under flickering lights, something unspoken passed between them. Not romance, not yet, but the raw beginning of it. A promise that pain could become something beautiful if shared. Months later, when Lucy was better and Daniel had risen through the company ranks, Evelyn stood on her office balcony watching the sunset. Daniel walked in, Lucy skipping beside him. "You look happy," he said softly. Evelyn smiled, her eyes glistening. "For the first time in a long time, I am." Lucy ran to her and hugged her legs. "Daddy says you're his hero." She giggled. Evelyn's laughter broke through the last of her walls. Maybe heroes didn't wear suits or walk on two legs. Maybe they were just broken people who chose to stand together anyway. And as the sun dipped below the skyline, Evelyn whispered the words that once began their story, this time not in fear, but in gratitude. "Please don't hurt me," she said with a smile. "Just don't leave me." Daniel took her hand. "Never again." And in that moment, two lives that began in pain found their way to healing, not perfect, not easy but real. Because sometimes the person you're most afraid of is the one sent to save you.